Thank you for choosing Look North. Our top story. Vulnerable children in Yorkshire need more support than ever before following the lockdown. The Children's Commissioner says without investment, at-risk teenagers could slip out of view with terrible long-term consequences. Meanwhile, the Children's Society is urging schools not to exclude pupils showing challenging behaviour as they return to class. But young people are more likely to face a temporary exclusion in Yorkshire than anywhere else in the country. And a recent report showed youth services have been cut by 70% in the last decade. Our social affairs correspondent, Emma Glasby, has been given exclusive access to a youth charity working with some of the most vulnerable teenagers in Leeds.
Turn it a little, just twist your wrist a little and give it a little bump on top.
In gardens, at a social distance, support for the most vulnerable young people in Leeds never stopped.
10-1 arm, swap to your left, left to your right.
The St Giles Trust works with teenagers who've been excluded from mainstream schools and those at risk of being drawn into crime.
Without St Giles, I was getting into bother, going out with wrong people and stuff, but now I've met these, it's like calmed me down more. Not going out as much as what I was doing all that bad stuff.
This 13-year-old had just started at a specialist school in Leeds for students with behavioural problems, but then the school's closed.
He was settling really down at the new school and with St Giles as well, but then of course lockdown happened. Just went a bit pear-shaped again really. He did settle down with his behaviour, but this set him back.
St Giles caseworkers spent lockdown visiting some of the most vulnerable families in Leeds, giving them laptops, board games, exercise equipment and food parcels. But now with schools open again, as problems surface, they're expecting more young people will need support.
I think referrals now will double. I think because of the lockdown, the fact of what these children have had to do and what they've not been able to do. So there's boredom, then all of a sudden the COVID-19 is released and all of a sudden these kids are back out now. So whether it be criminal activities, the grooming of gangs, we're going to see an influx of it, which then means we're going to get referral of these children working with St Giles.
This 13-year-old boy had behaviour issues and goes to a specialist school at the other side of Leeds. But in lockdown the school taxis stopped and his mum couldn't afford the petrol.
For him to have a routine and then the routine's taken away from him, he needs that stability. It's putting back a good 6 or 7 months of schoolwork. I do think he'll suffer a bit from it.
For many teenagers, the return to school is about so much more than lessons.
First day back, couldn't sleep. I didn't go to sleep at all until I came back from school. But obviously, more days at school, more you get used to it.
Why couldn't you sleep?
Just couldn't. Kind of excited, to be honest, to see all my mates again, yeah.
Post-lockdown, the Children's Commissioner is expecting a significant increase in referrals to social services and says now is a make-or-break time for the most vulnerable.
It will need investment, be it from the police and crime commissioners or indeed from central government, to really look at long-term, I would say, youth work with these individual children. Because there's a danger that, in 5 years' time we look back and there's a generation of very vulnerable teens that we let just slip out of view at this time with terrible long-term consequences. So this term will be absolutely vital.
There's no statistic out there talking about what's going to happen after COVID-19. We're all talking about during, we can talk about before, but we can't talk about afterwards. And that's when the biggest issues and biggest problems are going to come, is after COVID-19, after the lockdown.
But with COVID-19 far from over, the social issues this virus leaves behind are yet to be fully realised and tackled. Emma Glasby, BBC Look North, Leeds.